In this video, you learn the fundamentals to playing an acoustic guitar. Now, despite their many similarities, there are differences between playing acoustic and electric guitars. And this is why people who come from a predominantly electric guitar background can find it challenging to play acoustic guitar. Hi, this is Simon Candy from acousticguitarlessonsonline.net, and in today's lesson, I sit down with guitar practice expert Mike Filipov from practiceguitarnow.com to discuss and demonstrate the fundamentals to playing an acoustic guitar, basically making it a lot easier than what it tends to be for a lot of people. So these include the mechanics, and basically these are things that you can consider when first playing a guitar that are actually quite simple and easy to do, yet people either ignore these or just don't know about it. So you're going to learn what these are and how they're going to make playing an acoustic guitar a lot easier for you to do. You're also going to learn about fingerpicking, which is obviously very much related to acoustic guitar playing, and more specifically about the correct position for your fingerpicking hand. Now, many people get this wrong all the time, and from then on they have troubles with their fingerpicking. You're going to learn a very simple way that will absolutely guarantee you have your fingerpicking hand in the correct position, and it takes about 10 seconds to do. And dynamics. Dynamics are everything when it comes to your guitar playing, and there are particular dynamics you want to dial into when playing an acoustic guitar. So I'm going to show you some very simple exercises you can do straight away that will have an immediate effect on your playing. So let's get to it.
So Simon, let's just dive straight into this. What are some of those things, starting with the first thing on your list, that somebody can do to make acoustic guitar easier and get better faster?
What I would like to start with today is just some fundamentals and mechanics. So this is all just going to be the one point here, okay? But there's a couple of little separate pieces to it. There's simple things really that sometimes people don't take into account. They just jump on an acoustic guitar and go, oh man, this feels difficult, and don't bother with it or whatever. So there's a number of things that play either to your advantage or against, and it comes down to things like string gauge. I mean, there are different gauge strings, just like you have with electric guitars. So recently on this guitar, in fact like a week ago, these are fresh on these strings, I went back down to an 11 gauge. I previously was at 12, originally at 11, and maybe 5-6 years ago I changed to 12s. I went back down to 11s, and it's like, why didn't I do this sooner? I sort of went to 12s because I wanted a bit of a fatter tone, but there wasn't really all that much difference between 11s and 12s, and so it feels a lot better. I mean, the 12s were playable, but it just feels better with 11s. So that's one thing. Another thing, just in this same sort of area, is the guitar setup. I mean, if you pick up a guitar in a shop or a friend's guitar, a guitar in a shop's not really going to be set up. So, it's not necessarily going to be feeling great. And if you're picking up someone else's guitar, it's being set up for them, not you. So it's not going to be to your requirements necessarily. And when we're talking about setup, I mean, I'm not a real gearhead, and I'll just give my guitar to someone I can trust to set it up for me. But we're talking about a big one is the action. If the strings, the distance of the strings to the fretboard, I know Mike has an action that you can, put your whole hand through, although I think you might have gone a little lower in recent times, Mike. I like a low action, particularly on the acoustic guitar. So, the distance of my strings to the fretboard is pretty low, and that makes for easier playing. I don't have to push as much. It's easier to play stuff on the acoustic guitar when the strings are set at a low action. The other thing is the guitar itself. So this guitar here is a Dreadnought. It's quite a thick body. It's a reasonably big guitar. It sits pretty good for me, but someone else, it might be really uncomfortable and not very suitable. So we have different scale lengths, and we have different types of acoustic guitars. Not all acoustic guitars are equal. I've got one here, just to give you an idea, that is much thinner body. This is kind of going the other extreme. This is almost like electric. It's a Guild, and it's a really nice guitar too. Quite a different sound with the thinner body. So those are things to take into account too, the sound you like, but this is quite easy to play, and sort of the dimensions of an electric guitar. So, you've got choices when you're playing an acoustic guitar. The other thing you want to consider is pick choice. When you find a pick that you like, you want to really hold on to it, or I do anyway, because even if I go and buy the same pick, it's not quite the same. I just pick up picks off the floor. When I was teaching more offline, students would leave picks around all the time, so I didn't buy picks for years, and I'd find picks and I like them, but there's subtle little things. If I'm doing a lot of strumming, sort of strumming type stuff, I'm going to use a pick that's probably no more than a mil. I think this is hard to read on here, but I think it's no more than a mil anyway. It's got a little bit of grip on there, and there's something about this particular pick that I like. I've got another one here that's very similar, same width and thickness. I don't like it as much. This one feels a lot better. So even the same gauge pick, it can differ. I mean, maybe I'm a little fussy with this, but when you find something, it just cuts through the strings a little bit more. All these things add to making things easier on the acoustic guitar before we look at anything else. I also use the rounded side of the pick. I never use the pointy end of the pick here. I changed that about 5 years ago, and that was because it sort of a little smoother coming through the strings, but more for the sound. I like the sound of that. It's a mellower sound than the pointier end of the pick. So I don't use that end of the pick. So that's not to say that's what you should do, but these are just the things to consider to make acoustic guitar a little easy to play. If you've got a thick pick, just staying on picks for a moment, I've got quite a thick pick there. I like that for to really attack. That's a great sound. But if I go, for me, I like it. If I go and strum with this, I can strum with it, but it's a little clunky. It's not as nice as this one here. Yet this one soloing, it's okay, and I would solo with this one too. It's a good all-round pick, but sometimes I like the sound of the thicker pick. So these are things to consider before you even do anything on the acoustic guitar.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially, it's interesting what you said about playing with a rounder edge of the pick. I would have never thought of that. That's an interesting point. Especially, most of my viewers are coming in probably from electric guitar playing, and that's probably a new thing for them also. So everybody take note of that. And the other thing you mentioned about string action and string gauge, I actually, like you said, I did play with a super high action and the 10 gauge strings. But a few years back, I actually lowered the action, and obviously, I got a massive boost in speed. But what I would caution everybody is just lowering the action and or just using thinner strings. It's going to make you faster, but it's probably also going to make you sloppier, at least at first, because you're going to have so much speed. I joke about this. It's like having a Bugatti with Corolla brakes. You need to have more control over what you're doing, and that's what happened to me. Like, I was so fast, but I could play faster than my brain could process for the first time in a long time, and my two-hand synchronization was also not there. And when I was doing legato stuff, I was using too much tension because that's what I was used to. So it took me a while to get used to that. And don't expect that simply lowering the action or lowering string gauge is going to make you play better because of that. Your technique needs to be dialed in, and in general, and also dialed in specifically for the lighter string gauge. But it's going to make everything a whole lot easier. So what's next on your list?
This one's a technical one. It's really simple to fix or get right in the first place, and it's to do with finger picking and the finger picking hand position. Because a lot of the time when people finger pick, particularly if they don't finger pick much, you can kind of tell because they have their hand kind of in a position that it is when you're flat picking. And if you are like that, you've got your fingers and your thumb at incorrect angles to the strings. What you want when you finger pick is you want your fingers, index, middle, and ring, to be more or less, not exactly, but more or less at a 90 degrees sort of perpendicular to the strings. And then the thumb is kind of at a 45 degree angle to the string. But more so, when you're looking down from your view, your thumb should be in front of the fingers. But a lot of the time people finger pick, see how here my thumb is behind these fingers. My fingers are out in front of my thumb. We want it like that, not like that. Because like this, there's more tension, you don't get quite the leverage under the string to pluck it, the sound's affected, there's all sorts of issues that are going to come up, and if you don't fix the cause of those, then they'll continue to be a problem. One way that's very easy and takes no more than really 10 seconds to get this hand in the right position, absolutely guaranteed every single time, is just to simply take the three fingers, index, middle, ring, and you place them all on the third string, side by side, just touching the third string side by side. And then you take the thumb and you also put it on the third string. So at that point, the thumb is definitely in front of the fingers. It has to be if they're all going to be resting on the string there. And then from there, you take your thumb, keeping the other three fingers where they are. You take your thumb and you put it on the bottom string. You leave your index where it is, the index, that one, on the third string. You leave that there. You take your middle finger and you move it to the second string, and your ring finger goes to the first, and you're in position. You're all good to go. So that's it. That takes no time at all. You just put three fingers on, thumb, then spread it out, keeping the index where it is. Here's the thing that kind of, you know, some people say, don't do this, others say, do it. I was, don't do it, and then I reverted back from that. But there's a bit of a caveat here, and that is with your pinky. Do you rest your pinky on the body of the guitar? Some will say yes, some will say no. I say yes, like it's a good little stability point to have, and it gives you a little bit of supports the hand. But the thing is, sometimes people really push and anchor down on that pinky, and it puts all sorts of excess tension into your arm and fingers and so forth, and it's kind of glued down on the spot and it won't move. When I put my pinky there, it's very, very, very light. It's just a little, it's just like, yeah, there's the body and here's my fingers, and that's about it. And if I need to move my hand around at all, the pinky will move with my hand.
Yeah, that's a great tip as well. And I am a big fan of these little things, little technique tweaks that are non-obvious, almost like, you know, sleight of hand for a magician that make things a lot easier. One thing I say to my guitar students about the fretting hand, is kind of similar actually, is that the thumb position of the fretting hand gives a lot of people a lot of problems, as I'm sure you know, Simon, when it comes to stretching and all kinds of things. And the reason why this happens is people try to put the thumb in some position where they heard some guitar teacher, the thumb should go in this spot or that spot or whatever, or they don't think about it at all. And then the fingers end up being like the servants of the thumb. The position of these fingers is dictated by where the thumb is, how easy stretching is. It's all dictated by the thumb. And I say flip that. So with the thumb just kind of dangling here, put the fingers on the fretboard exactly where you need them for the chord or for the run you're trying to play, and then put the thumb afterwards. And that is a game changer, because you immediately find the right fretting hand position that feels easy, and then that's the thumb position where it should be for that lick, and there's no guesswork involved. So you kind of describe the same thing for the picking or the strumming hand, and those two things go hand in hand. So awesome stuff there, Simon. Awesome. So what's next?
The next one is more of a sort of to help you sound more musical and more feel. And it's, again, these are things that I'm presenting here as, you know, the nature of our stream today is things that can have an almost, if not an immediate effect. And one is dynamics. And dynamics is just simply how loud or how soft you're playing, not in terms of, you know, your volume on your amplifier or whatever, but the articulation and the power at which you're plucking the string or strumming or whatever it is. So if you don't have any dynamics, it doesn't matter how technically correct you play and how neat and accurate everything is, it can sound like Guitar Pro playing something back to you with MIDI. It just sounds, you know, like the you know, computerized and doesn't have much feel. So a couple of things here. I like to think of dynamics, and someone's dynamics is basically think of three levels. You've got, if you like, the middle one down the line, if we think of a spectrum here, is kind of normal, if we call it that. It's what you normally play at, most likely. Some people are very soft players, but typical sort of just, you know, normal volume that you might play at, okay? Then one below that is very soft. So we can play very softly, of course. We can play normal. And we can play very loud, right? You want to sort of just kind of get those parameters there and just get a bit of a scaffolding or a bit of a structure there for dynamics. Very soft, normal, very loud. They're your three basic levels of dynamics that you can think of. And then you want to play everything in between. It's not just very soft in the middle and loud. We've got a whole range in between, and you want to have a large dynamic range. It doesn't mean that every time you pick up your guitar to play, you're going to push the boundaries of your dynamic range within a single song, because different songs have different dynamic ranges. Some songs go very soft in parts and very loud, so that's a large dynamic range. Other songs aren't so much. So it depends on what you're doing, but you as a musician want to be able to play and very soft and very loud. So you can have, you can just sort of be aware of that. And then to practice, I'll do this kind of quickly, but to practice the levels in between, start very soft and just doing anything. So I'm just going to pick up and down an E chord here. You start very soft and try and perhaps visualize in someone gradually turning up the volume on your playing. You're gradually getting louder, 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 louder until it's gone from very soft to very loud. And then you bring it back down just gradually again. Okay, so a quick demonstration of that. So if I'm on the E very soft, and then you want to gradually bring it up, like the volume's being pulled up. Somewhere around that middle range. Very loud. And then we can bring it down. Okay, it's very rough and just very quick. The idea is to see if you can draw that out a little longer and just gradually move up in volume and down. Okay, just think of that turning of the dial, and it's just making you aware and building your awareness of dynamics, and that you can play very soft, you can play very loud, and sometimes you're going to do all that within a single bar. When you're strumming, not every strum is equal. You're typically going to, some beats are going to pop out because you really want to accent them. Others are going to stand back. So within a single bar, you're going to have a lot of dynamic level happening. But of course, across the duration of a song, you've got dynamics as well. The other thing I want to tie in here is rubato. So you're not going to play everything rubato, but stretching time is another thing that adds to the feel of what you do. So I'll demonstrate that with a little excerpt here of a piece. And I'm going to play it with no dynamic. I'm just going to play it at a single volume level, no rubato, anything like that, just very, very straight. So I'll do that, and then I'll play it with rubato and some dynamics, and see if you can hear the difference. So without any of that. Right, so all of that was fine technically. It was pretty accurate, I think. But there was absolutely no feel there. It was at the same volume level. There's no rubato. Now that's fine, but for a piece like that, it's typically played with some rubato. It's a classical piece. And so I'm going to do that now. And I'm also going to play around with the dynamics a little bit and see, or hear rather, the difference. So same thing. Okay, so there's a world of difference in those two examples there. Both are correct, both are accurate, but one's got a lot more feel because it's been played rubato. But again, you're not going to do everything like that. It just suits that particular piece. But there's more dynamics too. It wasn't like I went real loud and real soft in an odd sort of way, but certain things I want to accent a little more than others. If you like this video, you'll love this ebook complete with video examples called 10 Melodic Fingerpicking Patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. Do you struggle to make the fingerpicking patterns you learn on guitar sound like music? Perhaps it's because you believe in one or more of these fingerpicking pattern myths. 1. You need to know a lot of patterns to have your fingerpicking sound musical. 2. Only advanced fingerpicking patterns sound musical. Easy patterns are too basic to sound any good. Or 3. there is a magic pattern out there somewhere that once found will finally have your fingerpicking sound the way you want it to. None of these myths are true. This is because fingerpicking patterns alone are not musical. They're technical. It's what you do with the patterns that will determine how musical they sound. In this ebook, you learn how to make the most boring fingerpicking patterns sound amazing instantly. Plus, the simple trick to make advanced fingerpicking patterns easier to play, and the thumb and one finger trick that's so simple and will have your fingerpicking sounding pro in no time. Click the link in the description below this video and download your free ebook complete with video examples, 10 melodic fingerpicking patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. You'll have it in your inbox within minutes. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you'd like to see me cover in future videos. What do you find difficult to play about acoustic guitar, and have you ways yourself that you like to play it to make it a little bit easier, or certain aspects of it you think are important specifically to acoustic guitar? Let us know. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below the video. If you like this video, then hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the all-important notification bell button. That way YouTube will tell you when I've released a new video. This is Simon Candy from acousticguitarlessonsonline.net. As always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.